Welcome to the Website Success Show, the podcast dedicated to helping women in business get more traffic and sales through their website with less reliance on social media and paid ads. I'm Jules White, the founder of the Website Success Hub, and I love helping local and online businesses make more money through their existing website. If you have a business you love but you don't like the way your website performs, then this is the show for you. Hi, happy Friday. Hope you're well. So I've had some client power hours this week, which I absolutely love, and we've made some great progress and great discoveries and some real sort of quick wins for people. And a question that came up this week during a power hour, it came from a client who had unfortunately migrated her website. She'd migrated to a different platform, and then she'd completely lost all of her traffic and all of the sales that were coming from that traffic as well. It always breaks my heart when I hear about these kind of stories because it happens so often. It's a really common problem. People take advice, make a decision, and then lose all their traffic. And then it's often too late when they actually make that realization of, oh, where's all my traffic gone? It's too late to do something about it, really. So I always love it when I catch people just before they're about to migrate or when they're just starting to think about it, and I can just advise them on some of the things that they can do to help to make sure that they don't lose that traffic. And even just to make sure that they understand whether they are actually getting traffic from Google. I had this with a client a few weeks ago where she was thinking about moving platforms. And when we actually dived in and looked at what was going on with her traffic, we realised that she was getting a lot more traffic from Google than she thought. She was actually getting leads and getting clients coming in through Google. And that's something that's not to be sniffed at. If you're finding that is happening, as much as you might think it's not bringing a flurry of clients into your business, but if it's bringing people in, then that's definitely something not to, it's not a decision to be taken lightly anyway. And if you check out episode 10 of the podcast, which is all about website migration mistakes that sabotage your SEO. So go and check out that one. If you're thinking about changing platforms or doing anything major, any major changes with your website, then have a listen to that episode and reach out if you need some help with this and you need some advice, and we can always have a little chat. Anyway, with this client this week, it was too late. She'd already lost all her traffic, but she's now at the point where she's thinking about her new site and how she can actually make the most of it. She's had it set up and it's not been set up particularly well from an SEO point of view. So she's been doing some work herself, and now she's ready to really make sure that it is actually optimized and that it's showing up on Google. And one of the questions that she asked was about image SEO and what are the best practices that she needs to have to actually help to make sure that her images are optimized to show up in search and make the most of them, really. It's a business that images could be a big part of actually bringing people through to her business. So that's what today's episode is all about how we can actually make the most of the images on our website, making sure that we are optimizing them so that our images themselves can actually show up in searches, as well as actually them supporting the rest of our website. So hopefully this episode will help you to think about your images and how you can make the most of your images through your website. So this is something that is often overlooked, and often images can be a real problem point for websites. There's common mistakes that people make that can A, not make the most of the possibility with images, but also B, it can actually harm your website if your images aren't set up properly, if they are slow to load, if they're not really giving the user experience that they should be, then that can all affect your traffic and your sales as well, really. But it's not just all about techie stuff. This isn't just like a techie thing. This is something that's very simple to do. You can actually do a lot of this stuff yourself if you're uploading your images to your website yourself, if you're building your website yourself, or if you're having someone build it for you. Just making sure that these best practices are used as you go, then that can make a massive difference, really. So episode 13 of the podcast is all SEO Basics, your essential guide to getting found. If you haven't listened to that, it's a fundamental episode to listen to, just helping you to understand some of the basics of SEO, how it works, and how to set your site up for fundamental success. So the problems with images that aren't set up right, if you're taking images on your phone or getting images from a photo shoot that you've had with a professional photographer, then you might find that these file sizes are massive. I quite often see this on websites where they've been uploaded, and ideally we don't really want any images on our website, any individual images, to be more than 100 kilobytes in file size if we can. and often they're a megabyte plus, and a megabyte is 1,000 kilobytes. So that you can see how much that would actually slow your website down. And we want our website images to look good, to look crisp, professional, but they don't need to be print quality for that to happen on websites. And especially as the majority of people are looking on their phone as well, we definitely want them to look good wherever people are looking at our website. But actually, we don't need to have these big file sizes. Quite often people won't think about image file names as they're uploading their images to their website. I'm going to come on and talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but that's another common problem. So it might just be called image 1234, or it's normally that kind of ones that's in there really. So leaving the alt text blank is another thing that people will do, which is a real low-hanging fruit. Actually, even making sure that your images are relevant to the content that you're having on your page, or the content that you're trying to enhance by using images really as well. So what's search engines like Google and ChatGPT and any AI what's the word I'm looking for? AI models, they're all much more able to sort of see images and understand images. So years ago, Google could only understand what an image was about based on the alt text, and even now Google is much better at actually understanding images. So it can look at an image and it can tell you what that image is about, which is great. But if you can help with doing things like your file names and your alt text, using descriptive language there that actually matches the images, that can make a massive difference. Also, when looking at images and looking at the content on a page, making sure that the words on the page actually correspond with the images is also really helpful. So that helps to make sure that it's all supporting each other. So the images are supporting the copy and the copy is supporting the images as well. And that's often something that's not thought about a lot really, where people don't necessarily think about, is this image the best one to use for this section? Is this image something that is actually appropriate for this part of the website? That is often a common mistake that I see, and something that you can quite easily fix yourself as well. And this is all part of actually thinking about your website structure and thinking about what you actually want each page to show up for on Google. And I always do this with my clients. We will always start by thinking about mapping the website pages, thinking about what you want to show up for, like what search terms you want to show up for, which page is the most appropriate for that on your website, and then making sure we're optimizing that. And part of that optimization is making sure the images are actually optimized. So I did a little test on tools like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, back in episode 85, which was called Can AI Find Your Business? I put ChatGPT, Gemini and Perplexity to the test. And some of the results that came up around images were really interesting, actually. And I was looking at local dog walkers, and I found that a lot of what was coming up in the AI overviews and in that search within Perplexity and within ChatGPT, a lot of what was being shown there was actually images. And they were images that had either, like the ones that were coming up were ones that had a van with the name of the business in there, and especially if it mentioned dog walkers. And then the ones that had good descriptive alt text, so they were mentioning dog walkers within that alt text. So it just shows that actually making sure the images are relevant and making sure that you are using that alt text can all help both Google and ChatGPT, wherever people are searching, can help your images be the ones that actually show up, which then will hopefully lead people to come through to your website and actually click on and learn more about your business, basically. So one of the first things to think about when you're actually thinking about images to upload to your website is make those image file names. And that was the question that came up from this client. She sent me a list of like image file names and what's the best ones, which ones do you think would stand out? And it all depends on what that image's job is, what page it's for, and what you're trying to actually get that page to show up for in search. So the best practice in terms of when you're thinking about file names is try and name the file, and the same with the alt text as well. Try and name something that is actually relevant to the image, obviously. And if you can get keywords or key phrases in there, then it's good to do that if you can. So with image file names, try and use dashes between the words if you can. So if it was an example here, relaxing organic lavender facial. So that would then be relaxing organic lavender facial.jpg or .png, whichever. And that is something that if you're using it that way, it just makes it easier for Google and for people as well to read it. It just makes more sense than using like the underscore, where it's so much easier for people to naturally read that. Now, some website platforms do actually override your image file name. FBA Create does this, unfortunately. A lot of website builders will actually rename your files in terms of just a load of numbers and gobbledygook, basically. Kajabi does this as well, but Kajabi keeps the image file name on the end of that gobbledygook, and even that would be better than nothing, realistically. It just all helps Google and ChatGPT and AI bots to understand what's going on with your website. And so, yeah, that's what I would do with the image file names. You don't need to use stop words like of, and, the, those kind of things. Just making sure that you're getting those main points across in the image file names and using dashes between the words if you can. Image alt text. This should describe the image in clear and simple language. Alt text is something you'll see a little box in your website builder that says alt text, alternative text, accessibility text, SEO text, or something like that. Normally it just says alt text. And that originally they were designed for screen readers. So if people were using screen readers for accessibility, also for back in the day, and I say back in the day, some people still don't have good internet connection. And sometimes when you're out and about, you don't have a signal. So when websites were a lot slower as well, when the internet was slower, I suppose, people would see the alt text before the image itself actually loaded. And that still can happen now. So if somebody was seeing this page and they weren't seeing the image, what would you want them to be seeing there instead? So just thinking about if someone couldn't see the image, how would you describe it in a sentence? And so I was thinking of the example of if somebody was sitting at a spa having a pedicure, I wouldn't put woman in white robe with feet in a bowl of water. I would be thinking more of woman relaxing during pedicure at luxury spa, and then the spa name in location or something like that. So you're being a lot more descriptive and using those keywords that can help you actually then to show up in search with that particular image there. The alt text as well, you don't need to do this for all of your images. I would definitely say to do it for any new images that you upload to your website. Ideally, you want at least one image alt text to contain your target keywords or key phrase for the particular page that you're trying to get that page ranking for. So at least one image alt text. If you're in there and you're doing work to your images and you can just quickly create an alt text, then do it. You can even put your image into ChatGPT and ask it to create an image alt text. You can tell it what the target keyword is for that page. Bear in mind, though, that if it is the facials page and you're trying to get ranked for luxury lavender facial, for example, and you've got a picture of somebody having their feet massaged on that page, then you wouldn't be able to use luxury lavender facial unless it was like foot massage included in luxury lavender facial or something like that. So the alt text needs to actually be relevant to the image, and the image needs to be relevant for the copy as well, for what you're actually trying to describe. Otherwise, it's a real mismatch. I always sort of say if you were trying to sell a back massage and you've got a picture of a facial next to it, then that's an immediate disconnect for the person who's actually looking at that web page. Just popping in to interrupt myself for a moment. If you're wishing your website brought in more traffic, more sales, and just felt easier to manage without the tech headaches, come and join me in the Website Growth Club. Doors are open right now for founding members. You'll get access to bite-sized training, private group Q&As, co-working calls, and a friendly, growing community, plus the best price it'll ever be. You can get all the details at the websitesuccesshub.com/grow, or just send me a message. You can text the show or send me a DM. I'd love to welcome you in. Okay, back to today's episode. So I've said about image file sizes, ideally keep it under 100 kilobytes per image. If you're using an image editor like Affinity Photo with Max, I think you can export your images with different file sizes. You can compress them. If you're using Adobe or something like that, it gives you the image export options. You can usually choose in there what quality you want the image to be. You can also do this in Canva as well. If you're downloading single images from Canva, you can limit the file size. And so I normally do that and set it to like 98 kilobytes. It does depend on the image. And this is where getting that balance right between actually not compressing it so much that it loses quality. You know, it would be better to have an image that was 150 kilobytes, but if the image quality is significantly better, then that would be a better option in my eyes, really. It does depend on the kind of image as well. So if it's a graphic or something like that, then you probably don't even have to worry about that, because they're going to have a lot less pixels in them. They're going to have a lot smaller image file size anyway, just naturally. I also use another tool called Tiny PNG, which is, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a minute. So it's a website that you can visit, and you can upload your images there, and it will then compress them for you. Bear in mind that if you've got an image that's like over 500 kilobytes, you're unlikely to be able to use Tiny PNG just to immediately get it down to under 100 kilobytes. So ideally, if it's images that are around 250, 300 kilobytes, you might find that works with those. Again, it depends on the image. It depends what's there and how much compression is available really to be able to do that. And then you just download that and use that version of the image that you upload to your website. Then the other thing the other tool you can use to check this, rather, there's a few things you can do. If you use inspect tools, so if you right click, I'm not sure about on a Mac, but on a PC, if you right click or hit F12, and you'll see in the options there, you'll see one that says inspect. And then when you go into that, you can actually look at image file sizes in there. So yeah, you can just check in there and it will show you what image file sizes are actually there within your website. I have a few tools that help me to do this as well. I have a paid one that's called Hoverify, which is one that I pay for annually. Realistically, you probably don't need this unless you've got a lot of images that you need to sort of think about. It's one of those things that I would always just say, even if you try and do this as best practice moving forward, that's going to make a big difference. On those most important pages first with this as well. So making sure the images on your homepage, the images on your pages that are closest to the sale, those pages that we always work on first, the ones that are closest to you actually making a sale, make sure they load quickly first as much as you can really. And image file size is a big thing with page load speed. You can actually go to Google's page speed checker, page speed insights on Google, and that will tell you what on your website is actually slowing it down. One thing to mention is that ideally we want our web pages to load within 3 seconds. Ideally, we want all of the pages on your website, every single page, to load within 3 seconds, because otherwise, if you've got one page that's really image heavy, that's got like 10 megabyte pictures on it, and that page is slowing your website down, then that will affect your rankings. That will affect whether Google does actually display your website or not. It doesn't mean to say that it's never going to rank, but if Google has 2 websites that are pretty much the same on everything else, and one loads quickly and one doesn't, then Google is going to be choosing the one that loads quickly, realistically. And it's also a conversion thing as well. If your website's slow to load, quite often people will just bounce away. They reckon that people have got a 3-second attention span, but realistically, if a website takes 3 seconds to load, most people will assume that there's something wrong with it and they're not going to wait for it to load anyway, realistically. Then also thinking about image size itself as well. So when you're uploading images to your website, if you've got an image that you're going to use somewhere in a hero banner, so you want it to be full width desktop, which is normally 1200 or 1800 pixels wide, and you also want to use that as a little thumbnail somewhere as well, then you don't want to be using the same image for that if you can. So ideally, you would have 2 versions of that image. So you'd maybe have one that was 400 pixels wide for the thumbnail, maybe even less if it's a tiny thumbnail, and then one that was the full width as well. And so you would use different versions of that image for the different places. That also helps because then it doesn't mean that Google and whichever browser is displaying your website is trying to resize that image as it's loading the page as well. So thinking about that, that's helpful. Depending on what website builder you're using, you can add images to your sitemap as well. Unfortunately, you can't do this in FEA Create. It's not something that's an option in here, but that can be helpful. What you can do is add your featured images for your blog into your structured data, so your schema markup for your website, which is the technical things that you can put in the back end that helps whatever search engine is actually looking through your website, whatever bot is reading through your website, helps it to understand the data in your website and understand the context of it as well as the content of it. So you can actually use that. So making sure that you're linking to your images and your structured data can help as well. You can also, if you're thinking about getting your brand name into some of your images. I would definitely recommend doing that. So making sure that you are adding your brand name, not necessarily into every image, but key images, like if you've got a picture of the front of your shop, making sure that you put your brand name in there could be helpful. And as I say, not necessarily every time, but actually making sure that you've got that, especially for like maybe your about page, the one that you're really trying to get to be well known for your brand name, or maybe your homepage could be that as well. So you can use that in your image alt text and the image file names as well. This helps when AI tools or Google are actually trying to describe your brand. That will help with that as well. Got episode 95 of the podcast, which is 3 simple checks to future-proof your website for search. So go and have a listen to that episode as well. These are things that you can just do to make sure your website is ready to move forward and show up in AI search as well. You can also grab my workshop on becoming oh dear, my teeth in this morning. Becoming ChatGPT famous. You can visit my website. The website successhub.com/AI is how you can get hold of that. Some of the common questions that come up around images, and especially website images, are, do I have to SEO optimize every image on my website? And as I've said, start with those most important ones first. Start with at least one image on every of those most important pages. So definitely homepage, have a few images that are optimized on your homepage. And also the images that then lead to other important pages. So if you've got an image on your homepage that leads to your services page, making sure that that image is optimized for the term services in relevance to what you do. So like beauty services or dog walking services, for example. Making sure that you've got that image optimized for that. So that sends strong signals to Google about the services page and what that page is all about. So focusing on those most important pages first, and at least one image on each page. And you just update them gradually then. As I say, with anything new that you're updating, just to add this in as like a standard procedure that you do when you upload an image to your website, add in the alt text and make sure that as you're uploading it, the file name has best practices. Even if you know that your website builder overrides it, which I do with FBA Create, it's still good practice to name your image file names so that they are SEO optimized, really. I think it gets you into that habit of thinking about your images, thinking about what you're trying to get these images to show up for, and just those best practices, really. And then another question is whether your images are too big. And as I say, you can use inspect tools for that, or go to Google Page Speed Insights, and that will then tell you what images on your page are too big. What's the difference between image file name and alt text? So file name is what's stored in your folders. Your website builder can understand that file name, and your website builder either rewrites that file name or it will use that file name as part of where that image is stored within your website. And alt text is that front thing that's not really seen at the very front end, but it's seen as part of your website. It can be seen by people if they're looking for the alt text or if your website isn't loading quickly. And it also sends those strong signals about the image and about the page to whichever search engine is actually reading through your website, whichever bot is reading through your website. And the last question was, is it really worth this effort? So this does sound like a lot of effort. It doesn't have to be, and it absolutely is, especially for product-based sites, image-heavy businesses, local businesses, even online businesses, really for every business, every website, making sure that your images are well-placed, relevant to the content that you're actually talking about in the copy, and optimized can be something that really helps. It helps you to have that possibility of showing up in search. It also helps to improve the user experience on your website. So whether it is page speed or just understanding, our brains process images so much faster than they process words. A picture literally does speak 1,000 words, and you can very quickly get your message across and help to get people to actually go and read the copy that's there, and then hopefully then become a customer of yours, really. So definitely, yes, my answer to that is it is worth it. You don't have to make this your priority, but making sure it's there in terms of the things that you need to do to optimize your website is important, really. So I've got some action steps for you to do. So over the next week, choose one image on your homepage and either your best performing page or your page that's closest to the sale. And if you do have the ability to upload images that it keeps the file name, then make sure that the image file name is SEO optimized if you can, and sense check the image. So is it relevant to what you're trying to get this page to show up for? Is it relevant to what you're talking about in the copy that's next to it? Does it represent your business? Does it represent what you want to show up for? And if it doesn't, then change that, upload a new version of that image. Is it the right size? Is it the right file size? Is it the right image size, the image dimensions? If not, then change that, update it. And make sure that you've added an alt text to that image as well. So make sure you've added that to at least one image on those pages. And then, making sure that your images are supporting your website, not doing harm to it really. And these are bite-sized actions. This is designed to be simple things that you can do. And if you're not even sure what your best performing pages are, which a lot of people aren't, a lot of people don't know how to even look at this information, then book a power hour. We can dive into this. We can have a look at what's doing well on your website, whether your images generally are the right size or the wrong size, if there's anything major that's causing problems to your website, slowing your website down, causing real issues, and any low-hanging fruit and quick wins. Book a power hour and we can sort through that together. Remember to check out those other episodes that I've mentioned so you can just continue your journey of actually making sure your website is working for your business. And if you want more support and you want to take these bite-sized type of steps every month on your website, then come and join the Website Growth Club. It's a supportive community and it's bite-sized steps, as I say, every month that you can take to make your website work for your business. So go to the website successhub.com/grow and that will take you through to the membership page. Doors are open. You can come and join us and you're just in time to join before next month's content drop as well. So I hope you have a lovely weekend and I hope this has been helpful and I'll see you soon. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Website Success Show. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps others find the show. If you're ready to make your website work harder for you, grab my free beginner's guide to SEO. It's packed with simple, actionable tips to help you get started improving your website's visibility and attracting your dream client. Head to the website successhub.com/start to download it and take the guesswork out of creating a website that works for your business.